committee, whatever you want to call it.
Sorry, I forgot to turn that on.
No worries, and get out the vote. So, and then also at the beginning, there was a lot of talk about BBAD, and, we want to make it something that people will want to come to, people want to participate in, blah, 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 blah. And so part of it was, let's have these great big events and have lots of fun. But you know what, when it got right down to it, that was sort of the same thing as having your own pack. We just wanted to get shit done. And it takes a special kind of person to want to do fundraising. It takes a special kind of person to want to do events, and it takes a special kind of person to go out and knock on doors. And those are not always necessarily the same people. And so as the organization has evolved over the last couple of years, it just got to the point where some people have big ideas and want to do big, beautiful things, but when it comes right down to it, they weren't willing to put the effort into it, but we were willing to put the effort into making phone calls, knocking on doors, and trying to get out the vote. And so that's what we, and voter registration, all the projects that we did last year. So we just kind of evolved into an organization that was all about just doing the GSD stuff. And I would say the last 6 months of last year, that's all it was. We weren't having monthly meetings or anything like that. It was just constantly bang, 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 trying to get out the vote. So that's why we are perfectly happy to let Brian be our treasurer. Not officially our treasurer, but handle the bank account. You guys have the pack, and we'll go out there and knock on the doors.
Okay, Sandy.
Yes, John, you are on the board of BBAD.
I am not currently a board.
You just said that you were on the board. You guys had a board meeting and you were on the board.
Back then.
Back when I was on the board.
Within this last week, you were attended that meeting with John.
So there's going to be a board meeting on Sunday.
Okay, and then you're also on the board of NEBCD, and you are the co-chair for the precinct recruitment and training, correct? You're on all three of those. And I do want to commend you for the work that you've done. And, everybody says the most glowing things about you and how much that you've helped them. And what you've done has really you've taken it very seriously. And we so appreciate you. Just want to say that, love you for that. The one thing I wanted to ask was, you get volunteers, and it's more than just volunteers that are precinct chairs, and that's their responsibility to do the things that you've asked them to do. Are you asking BBAD members, or how are you getting volunteers out of BBAD? Are those your membership? And what is your membership? How many people are in your membership?
We don't have a membership.
You don't have a membership?
We have a membership like most organizations do. There are some people that contribute on a monthly basis in various ways, but no, we don't really run like a membership committee or anything like that. Again, what we wanted to do is just get out and knock on doors and make phone calls. We're not really interested in having a big, beautiful organization.
Well, it would help.
What was your other question? Did I answer both of it?
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Brian. Brian, you've got a comment?
No, I was just going to make a comment, maybe to just add some brevity. I wanted to reiterate what John said about it takes a certain kind of people to do this kind of work, and I agree with it. And I just wanted to make a comment that it takes a special kind of person to want to be a treasurer as well. That kind of person is called a masochist.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to.
I was treasurer for 6 years myself at this club, so I can go right along with that. Yes.
I just wanted to add that for brevity, and I will put my hand down now and move on.
Okay. I'm saying here, Jackie is next.
I have never understood the relationship between BBAD and the state BAD. What's it called? Tex BAD or?
Texas, yes. Texas Blue Action Democrats. BBAD is a chapter.
A chapter.
Chapter. Yes.
Okay. David Kaufman.
If BBAD doesn't want to incorporate as a new organization, then they probably should have somebody on the executive board so that we know what they're doing, they know what we're doing.
I think
that's something that I personally added this into the memorandum, that they would report to us at least a monthly basis. And my thought is that that would be to the executive board. Even if they were not to have formal membership on the executive board, they'd be telling us what they're doing and have an
Have a
obligation
report.
to do so. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would-
Ian Strauss. You have to unmute.
Okay, good. And I said, and I put it in the chat where I said in the cooperation section, A1, where it says, and all such donations shall be credited to BBAD and be available for its use. I would make that all such donations net of fees. Because I know that you and Brian had problems untangling the exact amount of money that should be BBADs, and I believe that part of that problem was that we pay fees to Act Blue and things like that.
Yeah, no, I accounted for that when I did my estimate last year. As a matter of fact, I just deleted the fees. In
the memorandum of understanding, I would say net of fees, because I don't want somebody saying, oh, $30,000 was contributed to Act Blue, but we only have $29,500 in the bank. Did you steal the other 500? No, the other 500 is Act Blue nickel and diming us to death at 3.5%.
Yeah, 3.97%.
3.97%. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I think that would be easy to add in the third paragraph in that section.
I'll put it back up again.
Yeah, where it says all such donations received in this new Act Blue account, we could just say net of fees shall be deposited. Just add net of fees after Act Blue account. I think that's a good point, so that there's no confusion.
But besides that, what I would like to say is I think we're learning that NEBCD is full of people who like going to meetings more or less, and BBAD is fuller of people who don't particularly like going to meetings. And I'm glad to say that there are a lot of people who don't like going to meetings who are still active and indeed more active democratic workers. So I'm glad we're helping and cultivating them. And that's all, folks.
Okay. Martha.
Mabel may have had her hand up before me. At least I saw her making chat.
That's the order I see it in. Mabel. Yeah, Mabel.
Okay. I put it in the chat, and because I have to check on Act Blue and such. Right now, there are donations being made under organizing and high history gains and all that. So are we supposed to assume that it is BBAD's money and not NEBCD? Because there is no designation. It just, people are donating, which is great. But at this time, it doesn't say whose money it should go to.
In the summaries, and that's how I did these calculations, it shows BBAD right up front as that's the basket that money is going into, but it doesn't show up.
BBAD accounts say BBAD. If you look at the accounts in Act Blue, the ones that are BBAD are BBAD. The ones that don't have BBAD belong to NEBCD. And I've archived all the extraneous accounts because we were getting people donating to the 2015 Labor Day picnic for this picnic. So I archived all the accounts except the current accounts. So there are 2 BBAD accounts and the rest of the accounts are NEBCD.
That's great.
Madeline, the grassroots organizing, history gains.
That's BBAD.
Okay, so, but it doesn't say anything like that on what I've seen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Martha?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to go back to the basic structure of this MOU. First of all, it looks to me like a template that somebody got from somewhere online, maybe, or from somebody with a legal background. Where did it come from?
Yes, it just came, it was a template from online, random.
Okay, okay. I think that you're really conflating two things in that memorandum. On the one hand, Brian goes into a great deal of detail about how we're going to separate and manage accounts. But at the beginning, you say, not you, but the memorandum says that the purpose of this memorandum is to support the project. I think that these are really two separate issues. We need a memorandum very much like what's here, with all the information about how we're going to relate to each other financially. And that's a document that is not, well, I don't know about impermanent, but it's likely something that will go beyond November 2022, given what I'm hearing right now. The project is actually a request for NEBCD to provide funding for a project. So I don't think these two things should be wrapped up together. I think we should clean up what we have right now, strip out all the references to the project, and have an agreement about how we're going to handle finances. Then another document should be written that requests or awards this money, 23,000 and something, to BBAD, so that we have some system of accounting for that money, where it went and why.
Okay. Ian, you have another comment?
Do I need to second that?
I'm
Sure.
sorry, I did not pull my hand down from
Yeah,
the
pull your hand down. Pull
actions.
your hand down. Okay. All right. Is that a motion, Martha?
Well, I guess so. I thought I was
Second.
making a comment. So does that stand as a motion with all of that stuff that I blathered, or do I need to rephrase it more
Well,
succinctly?
I think the meat of it is that you believe that there should be two agreements, one of which is on financial arrangements, and the other is on support of the financial management, that is, and the other is on support for the project, which is the efforts to elect Democrats in November of next year.
Yes,
Okay.
I make that motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Sure.
Those of you who have more legal understanding than I do, does anybody have any input?
I don't have more illegal understanding, but as far as I can tell, I like it just the way it is. I think we're getting into minutia, constantly getting into minutia. And I'm getting to the point where I just want to go out and knock on doors. I mean, I'm just having a real hard time dealing with all this.
It is a difficult process, but I think it's something that needs to be done.
Well, I think anytime you hand somebody $23,000, it's not minutia. And as a board, here's my opinion. I don't think we did a very good job of vetting this request before we asked the membership to vote on it. And I think we have a responsibility to them to make all of that very clear before we ask them to take a vote. We didn't. And maybe this is the beginning of some more clarity on this kind of thing.
I think that's kind of water under the bridge, Martha, the vote.
Oh, it
Vote was
is.
taken.
I'm not trying to call back the vote. I'm just
Yeah.
saying there's an example of, what Madeline believes is minutia, but I think it's really critical to be open about everything that we're doing.
If I could say something.
Go ahead, David.
This is all really complicated and none of us are attorneys. And if we're going to start doing these kinds of agreements, maybe we should have an attorney look at it, because it is very detailed and
If we have an attorney look at it, it's going to cost us money.
I think even if we have to pay someone, I think it would be good to have somebody just look at this, because
If we can't find an attorney amongst all our people for free, we're not supporting the right people.
I agree, and we do have members that are lawyers, so maybe we can ask them.
Seems
No,
like,
you guys, I'm trying.
seems
I'm
like they'd
trying
be
not
better
to-
at looking through the wording and
Yeah.
and the whereases and the if so's and all that stuff than we
Well,
are.
The problem is
Brian,
the type
Hold
of
hold on,
attorney.
hold on, Sandy. Brian,
Yeah, I would, I agree with the concerns that Martha brought up. I think instead of having two separate memorandum of understanding, maybe we could just combine those in one document and say that the financial arrangement and the flow of funds is going to be managed this way in perpetuity. And then we can also discuss this project as well without actually having two separate memoranda. That would be my recommendation, is maybe add a little bit of language to this so that we can include both of them in one document so that we don't have two documents floating around. That's just a brainstorming idea.
Don,
That was what I was going to talk about. Thank you, Brian.
Ian,
Yeah, I do believe we need to say something that about the financial arrangement extending to an indefinite time, maybe not in perpetuity. Perpetuity is awful long, but to an indefinite time, whereas the project, as described, ends on election day next
Right.
year.
Right.
okay. Is there any further discussion?
The only other thing that I wanted to bring up, and Bob, you mentioned this earlier because you showed the little.
I thought there was a vote on the floor for Martha's.
Yes, and it's under discussion.
Doesn't sound like it.
So I just wanted to bring, and Bob, you mentioned this earlier in the call with the little calculations you showed regarding what we think the current balance is of BBAD donations minus expenses in the approximate amount of about $9,400. In the bottom of page 1 of this memorandum, under cooperation, there's a sentence that says that NEBCD shall make an initial transfer into this new account in the amount of, and it just says XXXX, because that is to be determined, and those are the numbers that Bob was talking about earlier. So I think everyone will need to end up agreeing on what that number is when that transfer is made. So I just wanted to bring that up, that was intentionally left blank because we weren't 100% sure of the reconciliation of that number.
Okay. Okay, then we will proceed to a vote. And there, we do seem to have had a separate issue. Well, no, that's the issue which is being addressed. So the motion is that the proposed memorandum of understanding with BBAD be divided into two separate documents, one of which will deal with the financial management, basically having the treasurer of NEBCD handle the legally required reporting and the setting up of the donation arrangement on ActBlue and a separate bank account that would handle BBAD funds, and a separate understanding which would deal with what was described in the memorandum of the draft memorandum of understanding as the project, which is the actual support for the electioneering efforts of BBAD through November the 8th. David, do you have a comment? No. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is the issue before us. And so those in favor of the motion, please so designate by marking your yes in your reactions. Those opposed, mark a red no. Okay, so let's look at it here.
I'm sorry, I'm raising my hand instead of voting.
Are you yes or no?
Well,
Are you for or against the motion?
I agree with exactly with everything Martha is saying, but I would rather have it all in one document instead of two separate. Like I'm thinking that under this paragraph on the first page, it says purpose. We could actually have two paragraphs here. One is which is the all encompassing, not maybe in perpetuity, but time being, management of the funds, and then also mention the November 8th election, and actually have two things in this one memorandum as opposed to having two separate documents. If that's not a choice, then my vote is yes, let's have the two documents, because I think it's important to address the overall general management of the fund.
Okay, you have explained your vote.
Yes.
Okay, so you're voting yes.
So I'm voting yes if that's the only choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes yes, and 3 votes no. The motion passes. So we will go back and redraft the memorandum. Just as a statement of consensus, would it be acceptable to do as Brian says, and to combine the two ideas in a single document, but separating them as he suggests?
Wouldn't that depend on whether or not we voted yes for both of them?
Pardon me?
Wouldn't that depend on whether or not it was a yes for both of them or a no for both of them? I mean, why would we need to have them both in the same? I don't understand. Why would we keep them together? We would vote yes on one and no on the other.
The reason I want to keep them together is that it then becomes a comprehensive document.
Yes.
Which, where you can, any question that arises, you refer to this one comprehensive document.
Well,
if you
we've got
have two
standing
separate
rules and
documents,
bylaws. Why
it
don't we have
unnecessarily,
standing rules and bylaws in the same
in my
document?
opinion, complicates the matter.
Mhm. Well, if this serves as a comprehensive document, what if in the future you decide to give BBAD more money?
Well, there's nothing that limits the amount of money that in the draft MOU, it says we can give them as much money as they need, provided that the governing body agrees to it. That's in one of the paragraphs.
Right, and I'd like to just leave it at that for flexibility. Once we reach November 2022, that reference to the project is a dead appendage in that document.
Well, obviously there's a lot of redrafting to do. whatever we end up, the consensus might be, but we'll work on it. Okay.
I have no doubt there will be future projects.
Yeah, no, there
No
will.
kidding.
Okay, so we're back to the drafting boards. Those of you who have participated in the drafting, and I invite any of you who would like to participate in that to do so.
Just get me whatever you come up with. If you can get it to me before Sunday,
Yeah.
take it to the BBAD meeting. That would be great.
I've cleared all the.
I'm going to be out of commission the whole day tomorrow. I don't know, Brian, could you kind of take a shot at it?
Of course, yeah, I'd be happy.
Yeah. And John, why don't you talk to Brian about about how that would work?
Sure. I mean,
And Martha, I invite you to talk to Brian as well.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to help John write or whatever you want.
Yeah, so perhaps that would be a petit comité that would, a drafting committee. I can't do it at all tomorrow. I might be able to get back on it on Saturday, but not before then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm actually in town right now too, so I'm having a little trouble.
Okay, all right. We'll get it worked out. Okay, that is the last item of business on the agenda. Oh, we
I've
did
moved
add
to
an item
adjourn.
that,
Yes, sir.
I second that.
No, I have submitted.
There was an additional item
Yes.
added to the agenda.
I have submitted an amendment to the bylaws. Would you like me to share it?
It would be a proposed amendment because it cannot be voted on
Okay.
until February, of course.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I would like to, and so I'm going to submit it now, and let me see where.
Could I
it is.
move that we
Okay.
table this in the interest of time, since we've been on this for almost 2 hours?
Yeah.
And that was by design, so no, there's a couple other things that are going to be discussed as well.
Well, Sandy, why don't you email that, your proposed amendment?
I
think you
already
did.
have.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I saw it.
Okay,
Okay,
so we
so
will,
it's been sent to the board.
okay, all right.
And so you have to approve it before it goes to the membership. Yes. you can
No,
table it.
no. It only has to be submitted to the secretary. The board has nothing to do with that.
No, that's not what the bylaws say. The bylaws say that it has to be approved by the board in order to be sent to the membership.
That's right, and we have until February to do that.
We have until
Okay.
February.
All right,
Right.
so Tony, did you have something you wanted to say about the meeting and about, we had, let me just pull up the rules here. Not that one. About this last meeting that we had, the bylaws. Okay, about the special meeting.
Yeah, can the chair review the advanced notice requirement for special meetings?
Would you like me to read that to?
Yeah,
to
go ahead, read.
Okay. Where is that? Okay, well. This is,
Yeah, I would like to have been more prepared for tonight, but I've been in other circumstances just about the whole day.
it down, hang on. Amendment to bylaws. Bylaws, okay. This is the meetings. Okay, special meetings. Special meetings can be called by the chair or a majority of the executive board with proper notification to all members at a time and place determined by the person calling the meeting. Proper notification shall consist of notice by mail postmarked 4 days in advance. Well, obviously, we're, not 4 days in advance. You emailed this Zoom meeting on the 28th of August, which was 2 weeks before the September 11th special meeting. And in that particular time, that was a time when everybody was too busy and had a lot of emails and a lot of work to be done. And I'm pretty sure a lot of it got lost.
So the September 11th meeting as called was contrary to the bylaws of the organization.
Well, actually, I will disagree because the September meeting was in the normal time period for our meetings. We don't ordinarily meet in September, but that doesn't mean that it was not a regular meeting because it was in the regularly scheduled time slot for such meetings. And in the absence of the chair per se, because he's involved in other things, I have the authority to call that meeting. We don't do it by letter mail anymore. We've done all of our meetings calls by
Constant contact.
and email. We did not use constant contact this time
Yes.
because we wanted to restrict it to members of the.
Well, I do have all the members in there, so I could have called it You asked me in particular not to do a constant contact for this meeting, the
Yes.
September 11th meeting.
Yeah,
I would-
I emailed every individual member of the, which I
On-
always do.
In
I would-
August 28th.
I would point out that the Labor Day event, which serves as the regular meeting, was announced to all the members and other people by mail plenty of time in advance, whereas the September 11th gathering was not so notified by mail.
Well, the practice has been over the past, a year and a half that we have not been mailing postcards, but.
Well, the practice,
point is taken.
we've had a practice longer than that, we would not have a meeting in addition to the Labor Day picnic in the month of September. And that's a far longer standing practice than the use of email instead of the US postage.
Well, okay. Ian,
Yeah, I'm not sure what the content of Sandy's proposed amendment is, but maybe we do need to look the bylaws over and see where we want to do things electronically, or where we want to grant ourselves the options in writing to do things electronically.
I think she's calling for a more stringent quorum requirement for major expenditures.
Yes, I'm asking for a 25% level of membership for expenditures over 500. We did not have very many people at this meeting, as far as I could tell. And I looked through, I did not see 40 members in this meeting on September the 11th. And I did look through the gallery and really only had one page at the time of the voting. And and I don't think people understood, the importance of it if they were in the meeting. I'm going to go back and look at Robert's email and to see, whether or not he asked for, made people understand, the importance of the special meeting. But when we are distributing that much money, we can't rely on such a small group of people, most of which were the board, to provide that kind of funding. That's all.
but Ian, are you still, no, John?
As I'm listening to the discussion tonight, it seems like there's an elephant in the room. There are obviously some people on this call that are not happy with BBAD, and I'm sorry about that, but I can assure you that all we want to do is go out there and knock on doors and make phone calls. None of us is making money off of this. In fact, we're killing ourselves. And it's almost to the point in this meeting right now when I'm thinking to myself, no good deed goes unpunished. I'm starting to feel that way. I don't like what I consider an adversarial tone. I don't know what you guys are trying to do with Bob right now, but it seems to me that you're not happy with the way he's calling meetings. I mean, what's going on here? Let's lay it out on the table. What's going on?
Well, I, for one,
Brian,
have no problem with BBAD, if I can answer John's question. But I'll tell you a little anecdote. Future Congressman Walter Capps came out to Hawaii and did a fast sales job. And after he left town, the relevant committees met with the dean, and a very wise person on that committee, it was not I, said, "We've been had." It was a rush sales job. And that's what I have as an impression of the September 11th meeting. It struck me as a railroad. It was a rush sales job. It circumvented people's looking at it who have familiarity with campaigns with a cold eye to see whether it was valid. So I think we've been had. I think we and our money will be easily parted.
So you don't trust us.
I don't know who you mean by us.
Well, look, all right, me. You don't trust me because I'm the face of this right now.
I'm saying there was a railroad job.
How was it a railroad job? We had a board meeting that not very many people attended. And then we had, and everyone, we talked all about this. And then we went and had the meeting on September 11th.
Yeah, can I make a clarification? The actual vote for the disbursement of these funds was the one that was on the 14th. It wasn't the 11th. The 11th was a meeting among people to decide whether or not we wanted to make a proposal. The proposal wasn't made until Tuesday. And that's when the vote was, and there were 40 or so people involved. And
I
think,
wasn't at that meeting, but does everybody else have the understanding of that?
no, I guess what I wanted to clarify is that the September 11th meeting was a meeting among people to see whether or not the proposal was even going to.
Brian, you got your dates mixed up. It was
Yeah.
on the 7th was the meeting. And then the 11th was the membership meeting, which was the final
Right.
vote. Right.
Okay, then forgive me.
Okay, yeah, because only the membership meeting can disperse funds over
Or
500.
$500, right.
I'd like to say something.
David,
I was going to say this in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, but since we're well over our time and probably
Yeah.
into that, I've never been in an organization that makes financial decisions in an open meeting of the membership. And that's really designed for a club of about 30 people with a budget of maybe $20,000 a year. It's most organizations have a budget that they agree on at the beginning of the year, and they say this much is for this much is for that. And then you report back to the membership on how that money was spent. So in about October, you start working on a budget. By January, you agree on it. The board agrees on it. The membership sees it. Membership votes on it. Then you don't have to come to a meeting of 40, 50 people and say, we need $20,000 for this. You have it in a budget and you spend it. So that's the way grown-up organizations work. But all of this dissension, I think, is because such a huge amount of money got appropriated in a membership meeting, and this is not a good way to do things. I
Well,
think we can do better.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Let me just ask a question. Well, historically, when you set up these meetings, and I do believe the last time that we dispersed money to BBAD, it was kind of done the same way. It was low membership involvement. It was, it kind of seemed like there wasn't, any discussion about, how the money was going to be spent.
That's
Or
why I'm suggesting we do things differently.
I agree. I think, I know you say, I understand the objective of keeping the numbers low so that you could actually have an agreement on something.
No, that's not the point at all. The point is, we have a
Well,
budget.
that's kind of what happens, is what I'm saying, is has. a
Now, what
history
I'm
of
talking about
economic-
is there's a better way to do things. And what most organizations do is they agree on a budget. They don't try to decide on each expenditure. And I've never been to a membership meeting when a financial proposal was made that the membership has ever voted no on it. I mean, way back when we were smaller, someone, usually Bob Coleman or someone else, would say, I have a project, I need $1,000, I move we spend it, all in favor, everybody's in favor. That's not a good way to do business. If we say this much is for campaign projects, this much is for campaign office, this much is for normal expenses, and you agree on that, then you don't have to make all these individual decisions. And a meeting with 40 people is not a good place to do that, especially an open meeting where we got elected officials, attorneys, judges, all this stuff. I think there's a better way to do things, and I think we need to look at that.
Okay, well, I do want to respond to your comment. Wouldn't having a layout of or a proposal being that could be vetted, by somebody in our executive committee, to say, okay, this is okay. This is something that we could all agree on, that that
Exactly.
we're going to take to the general body. And that is, as far as I know, that's not something that did happen.
Yes, it
Am I
did.
wrong?
What I'm saying is
happened.
that
It did happen.
instead
It
of
happened
having each
last-
individual thing come to the members meeting, the executive committee agrees on a budget for the next year or the next 2 years. And then you agree on that. Once you've agreed on that, you don't have to take every $1,000, every $20,000, every $100,000 and vote on it in a meeting. It's not a good way to do business.
I don't think I'm understanding yourself, but in the bylaws, it does say that,
Yeah, but
that,
I'm talking about changing our procedures. I'm not talking about what we've
Oh.
done in the past. I know what we've done in the past. I know what's in the bylaws. I'm saying we need to do things differently. And the grown-up organizations have a budget. They don't go every time they need money to the membership. They say, we have this much in the budget, we can spend this much. And then you account to the members, and it's basically the board that does that. You account to the members on how you spent the money according to the budget that everybody agreed on. So you make that agreement once a year, not in every single little meeting or every time you need money for this or that.
I thought that's what we did, that we normally do.
No,
But
it's
there are
not.
little projects that come up, every now and then that,
No,
that
we've
needed.
never had a formal budget. We have an informal budget.
Let me comment that, first of all, it's quite late, and this is an issue probably does need to be fully vetted in itself. But I think that let me just comment that NEBCD has always operated as a fairly, in spite of everything, nimble organization, which looks at how much money we have in cash flow at any given moment and decides whether or not we can spend money on any given project. We have put together budgets. There is a budget available, but which was not voted on, but which was generally has been just a kind of a guide as to how we think money will be spent. But until we collect the money, which is an ongoing project over the course of the year, that's when we make the decisions about where the money is going to go. If we want to go to a full budgeting arrangement with starting at some early time in the previous calendar year, which is also our fiscal year, then we're going to be a lot less nimble organization, and that's fine if that's what the members of the board and the membership want to do. That's fine. I don't. I'll be very frank with you. I think it would limit our flexibility in being able to do it, particularly at campaign time. Generally speaking, what we do is in the month of May, we go to the membership and say, authorize the campaign committee to spend money as necessary and as available to run the campaign. And that's that. And we start collecting more money during the campaign period, and money comes in quite readily at that time. And we spend it until we're down to what we think is prudent to reserve for the ongoing business of the club. If you want to change that, that's fine, but I'm not on board.
I would like to know why the campaign committee was circumvented. I've seen no explanation for that. And when I ask such a question, I'm told I'm the mistrustful one. Why did people run around the committee?
I think that was a mistake. I'm fully on board with you. The campaign committee should have been involved in the decision, and we will rectify that. But because of the the feeling of some urgency about getting the funding done so that the work could get underway, was not an effort to avoid consulting the campaign committee. It was just a feeling of urgency.
What did NEBCD do before BBED came along? You just gave the money to Bear County Democratic Party, right?
No, we very much did not give the money to Bear County Democratic Party. We ran our own campaign, which mainly involved funding block walking and phone banking and that sort of thing. And having been with this club for 20 years and treasurer for 6 and leader and president of the PAC for 6 or 8 years before that, I can tell you in some detail how it worked. But yes, I mean, if there is a desire, and what I described to you a little early on was exactly the way it's always been managed in the past. If you don't like that, doing it that way, that's fine.
John
But
Goodman.
then we
would
need to
like
come up
be
with an
recognized.
alternative.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. No, David, I understand what you're saying about how organizations mature and yeah, probably, maybe we should start looking at some of this stuff. We have appreciated the fact as being the street team that the organization has been nimble enough to make decisions quickly because stuff happens. I mean, the whole point of the urgency now is Colt did not take the job or was not offered the job until September the 1st. And here we are in September and we've got a lot of team building to do before we hit the streets, in January. So that's kind of why the urgency was. And I think that you mentioned earlier, Sandy and Tony, that Tony, you felt railroaded about it. And I am sorry about that. And Sandy, but when we had the board meeting before the September 11th meeting. So I guess it would have been Tuesday that week. Colt did present the plan in all the details. And I think you guys weren't here. So maybe that's why it seems like it was done around you, but he did present the plan to the board. And that's why we went ahead and had brought it up at the September 11th meeting.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for not being at that meeting. I don't know why I wasn't able to attend.
Okay, it is really late. And so I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. We should have finished at least an hour ago.
I already moved to adjourn a while ago.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, did you want to say something, Ian? Your hand is up.
Yeah, I did. I'm going to say, I know why I was not at Tuesday's board meeting. It's because it's my usual Toastmasters night, and
Yeah.
that particular day I was the scheduled speaker too.
And we all talked about you too.
Yes. And
Is there a second to?
I second already, but I would like
All
you
right.
to put my my amendment to the bylaws on the next agenda, please.
okay, why don't you email it out to us, please, so we can look
I
at it?
did.
She
I
did. She
I
emailed
sent it.
it
You
to
have
all
it.
of us. Yeah.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
You'll find it.
Right.
Okay.
And despite the fact that it was a long meeting, I thought it was a good meeting.
Yeah, it was a good meeting.
Okay, I think it's important for people to be able to share their feelings and thoughts and express.
Absolutely.
themselves. Yeah.
That's why we have the meetings.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to take a vote. All those in favor of adjournment, wave your hand or press yes or whatever. Okay.
I'll do both.
Okay. Okay. We are adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Good night.